bound in the Spirit. I'm taking it right from the text, Kevin, right there in verse 22. I want to talk about for just a few minutes, Janae, bound in the Spirit, part 1. To be bound, Jeremy and Jermaine, means to be placed under legal or moral restraint or obligation, just to prove. To be bound means duty bound. It means to set limits or bounds. It means, Michael Hightower, to be confined or enclosed. That's why some folk might go say that I'm claustrophobic. I don't like being in small spaces because I feel enclosed and I can't breathe. I feel confined, Kevin, and I need more space because I feel bound. As we look, Deacon Page, at the word in the text in verse 22, that word bound, the Greek word deo, was commonly used to refer to physical binding with chains and ropes. It was used figuratively to speak of the powerful tie in the marriage bond. That's why some folk they didn't know what they were saying, but it was true. You know, those players out there, when you tell one of your boys you're getting ready to get married, they say, oh, brother, you getting ready to be on lockdown. And you remember what I told you before, they may call you henpecked, but ain't nothing wrong with being henpecked as long as you pecked by the right hen. You get a witness. Some folk just mad, ain't nobody want to peck them. Yeah, they looking for a hen to be pecked by. Paul's sense of duty, Brother Bonner, and responsibility to his master was so binding that he tells us in this text, Brother Mallard, he said, I was bound in the Spirit to go to Jerusalem. So in chapter 20, we catch up with this gospel globetrotter once again, and let's join Paul on his fantastic voyage as he slides, glory, and slippity slides throughout Ephesus. In verses 1 through 4, as we catch up with him, Paul, he takes the mothership and he sails to Macedonia and Greece. You pick up in that same chapter 20, verses 6 through 12, he steers from Macedonia and Greece, and now he's on his way to Troas. Then, Sister McGinnis, you pick up again in verses 13 to 16, and then he makes his voyage to Miletus. And then in verses 17 to 38, while at Miletus, he addresses the Ephesian elders. And in his address to the elders of Ephesus, Floyd, this great gospel globetrotter, he teaches us what a sold out believer does when he or she is bound in the Spirit. And looking at Paul's activities here, we're going to see a powerful lesson in dedication, determination. And Brother Glenn, we're going to see just what it means to be steadfast in the Lord. In so doing, I want to highlight, Brittany and Amber, I want to highlight 3 things. First of all, I want to talk about Paul's resolve. I want to talk about Paul's reason. And then I want to talk about Paul's rest. But since there's so much in there on today, we're only going to deal with Paul's resolve. That's why this is part 1. Paul was determined to go to Jerusalem despite the fact that it was not a popular opinion among the others. Go with me, just fast forward one chapter 21 of Acts. I want to show you what I'm talking about. Chapter 21 of Acts should be the very next chapter. If you're in chapter 20, you ain't got that far to go. Verses 1 through 14, watch this, Barbara. It says, and it came to pass that after we were gotten from them and had launched, we came with a straight course unto Cos. And the day following, unto Rhodes, and from thence unto Patara. And finding a ship sailing over Phoenicia, we went aboard and set forth. Now when we had discovered Cyprus, we left it on the left hand and sailed unto Syria and landed at Tyre. For there the ship was to unlade her burden. And finding disciples, we tarried there 7 days, who said to Paul through the Spirit, watch this, that he should not go up to Jerusalem. Now we just read, Mongo, where he said he was bound in the Spirit to go to Jerusalem for the day of Pentecost. And now some folk are telling him through the Spirit that he should not go to Jerusalem. And when he had accomplished those days, we departed and went our way, and they all brought us on our way with wives and children till we were out of the city. And we kneeled down on the shore and prayed. And when we had taken our leave one from another, we took ship and they returned home again. And when we had finished our course from Tyre, we came to Ptolemais and saluted the brethren and abode with them 1 day. And the next day that we were of Paul's company departed and came into Caesarea. And we entered into the house of Philip the evangelist, which was one of the 7, and abode with him. And the same man had 4 daughters, they were virgins, which did prophesy. And as we tarried there many days, there came down from Judea a certain prophet named Agabus. And when he was coming to us, he took Paul's girdle and bound his own hands and feet and said, thus said the Holy Ghost, so shall the Jews at Jerusalem bind the man that owneth this girdle, and shall deliver him into the hand of the Gentiles. Watch this now. And when we heard these things, both we and they of that place besought him, Paul, saying, please don't go to Jerusalem. Then Paul answered and said, what mean you to weep and break my heart? Now listen now. Paul was bound in the Spirit to go to Jerusalem, and now some folk are telling him, said, no, I just didn't receive this, but the Spirit told me that if you go to Jerusalem, man, they're going to bind you up. And Paul said, well, y'all mean to cry and break my heart. He said, for I am not ready to be bound only, but also to die at Jerusalem for the name of the Lord. And they said, and when he would not be persuaded, we stopped saying, let the will of the Lord be done. Yeah. Because remember, the minute God called the boy, he told him what was going to happen. So what Paul said, I know this may happen, but he said, I'm bound in my spirit. I got to go to Jerusalem. I don't care if they kill me. I got to go to Jerusalem. Because remember, that was the place where it all started. So as you can see, my brothers and my sisters, Paul was sold out for Jesus. And here's the thing, my brothers and my sisters, if you are not sold out, it's that much easier to sell out. Yeah, sellouts. That's what we call them in the neighborhood, Mike. You know, coming up, they sellouts. That's somebody who compromises his or her honesty, his or her integrity, his or her values, and you sell that out, you compromise that due to pressure from the outside from somebody else. Yeah, that's what happened when you sell out. And that's why John Boehner can't lead, because they sold out to the Tea Party. Yeah. So you get up here and tell us all the stuff we're doing, and you know that's why you scared to say something, because Sarah Palin and the rest of them got you in their pocket. And you can't say nothing. You sold out to the establishment, and that's what is going on with the different strikes and things. What they're telling the person is, don't cross this line, because we don't want you to sell out to the establishment. Yeah, so if you ain't sold out, it's that much easier for you to be a sellout. And the neighborhood that we come from and grew up in, you might not want to be called a whole lot of names, but you really didn't, Floyd, want to be called a sellout. Yeah, because then, wouldn't nobody have nothing to do with you. You remember O.J. Simpson, don't you? When he got in trouble, all of a sudden he thought that he was going to go back and be with his boys, and they said, O.J., you sold us out the day they handed you the Heisman Trophy. Yeah, 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 Brentwood. Now you talking about I'm from Compton. That's because your buddy in trouble. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And he picked up Johnny and then really sold out of money. Yeah. Jesus was sold out. Brandon, he was sold out. How do I know this? John chapter 11, verse 7 and 8. This is what it said, Brian Phillips. Then after that, said he to his disciples, he said, let us go up into Judea again. Then one of the disciples said, Master, I don't think we can go there again. Said, I don't think that's a good idea. He said, because remember, the Jews sought of late to kill you. And Master, I know you don't want to go back there. And then Jesus started doing strange math, asking him how many hours was in a day. In other words, he said, look, I ain't afraid of what they can do to me. He said, I'm sold out to my daddy. And when you're sold out, Richardson, you won't sell out. You see, my brothers and my sisters, when you're sold out to the Savior, when you are bound by your beliefs markers, when you are enclosed with your election, when you are placed under legal restraint from the Lord of redemption, it changes what you see when you sold out. See, folk that sold out can see clearer than folk that have sold out. You can see further. You can see further. See, Jesus said on the night of his arrest, he said, the Son of Man must go to Jerusalem and be glorified. Did y'all catch me? He didn't say the Son of Man is going to be crucified. And he did tell them on more than one occasion the Son of Man must be lifted up. But he said the Son of Man is going to Jerusalem to be glorified. And what I'm saying, Mongo, he was so sold out to his Father, everybody else saw a cross, but he saw a crown because he was sold out. Yeah. That's why Hebrews 12:2 tells us, it said, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. That means he instituted this thing and he's going to carry it through. Watch this, Richard. Who for the joy that was set before him. Yeah, joy. Endured the cross, despised the shame, and is now set down at the right hand of God. Because Patty, Sylvia, he was sold out and he saw different from folk that was selling out. And Digger Richardson, I can speak from personal experience here. You've got to be sold out if you're going to get in this thing called the gospel ministry. They tell us as young preachers, they said, look here, if you can do anything else other than preach, you ought to. Because if you can choose to do something else, that's a fact that God didn't call you to preach. Because you got another option. Yeah. Listen, I can attest to being sold out for God, because when I was at Mount Zion, I was, if you will, I was in the position as Joseph was in Egypt at Mount Zion. Listen, I sat in the second chariot, if you will. Yeah, Addis was Pharaoh. I was Joseph. My goodness, you know, you've watched us all them years. I sat in the second chariot to Pharaoh, the ruler of Egypt. Andrew, I sat in the second chariot to the man that oversaw the Mount Zion Baptist Church. I was assistant to the pastor. Didn't have to check with anybody except him. Didn't need approval of anybody except him. Wasn't trying to please nobody but him. Mike Hightower had the biggest Sunday school class there. Had over 100 folk in my Sunday school class. We'd raise over $1,000 every week. Had the biggest Wednesday night class. Here I am, Andrew, at a church with a budget of $2.5 million, and I'm sitting in the chair next to Pharaoh. And God spoke and said, now go to Macedonia. Lord, I'm sitting next to Pharaoh here.